Imagine a terrifying tsunami warning blaring across Hawaii, people running for their lives, desperate for any escape. But then, one name suddenly sparks outrage worldwide: Oprah Winfrey. Locked gates, closed roads. Was she standing in the way of survival? Or is there a hidden truth the internet refuses to see? This isn't just a story about a gate, it's about power, privilege, and a community's fight for justice. Stay with me, because what you think you know about this controversy might just shock you. Oprah Winfrey is once again at the center of controversy, this time for allegedly locking out desperate evacuees during Hawaii's tsunami scare. According to locals, she refused to open her private access road while panic spread and sirens blared. Now, Oprah has finally addressed the claims, but instead of calming the storm, her response has ignited even more backlash. Was this a tragic misunderstanding, or a heartbreaking betrayal from someone many once saw as a national treasure? The moment the story broke that Oprah may have blocked escape during a natural disaster, the internet erupted. Accusations piled up, critics didn't hold back, and social media, a wildfire of fury. For many, this wasn't just a story about a closed road, it was a moment that tested compassion and humanity. The idea that Oprah Winfrey, one of the most powerful and beloved figures in the world, might have refused to open her private access road during a terrifying tsunami scare in Hawaii sparked instant outrage. Social media erupted with accusations, and questions flooded in. How could someone with such influence and resources allegedly turn her back on people running for their lives? But as more details began to surface, the narrative took a turn. Oprah finally broke her silence, and her explanation painted a much more complex picture. Now, locals, media outlets, and viewers are all piecing together what really happened that night. Was this a case of misunderstanding magnified by viral outrage? A calculated media smear? Or is there a deeper, more uncomfortable truth behind the backlash? The more you look, the messier it gets. What was meant to be a peaceful evening in paradise quickly spiraled into chaos. As sirens wailed across the Hawaiian Islands, fear swept through communities following a powerful underwater earthquake near the Pacific tectonic plate. A tsunami warning had been issued, and the once tranquil ocean became a looming threat, its waves capable of wiping out entire neighborhoods. Emergency services rushed to respond, sending out alerts via texts, news broadcasts, and loudspeakers. Within moments, roads were packed with terrified residents trying to escape low-lying areas. But as the panic grew, so did questions: who was helping, who was standing in the way, and who else might have played a role in what happened next. Families rushed to gather children, elderly relatives, pets, and whatever essentials they could carry. Panic spread as tourists, unfamiliar with the terrain and emergency routes, wandered anxiously, unsure of where to turn. The emergency was no longer a drill, it was real, immediate, and terrifying. For residents of Maui, including Oprah Winfrey, who owns over 2,000 acres on the island, disasters weren't new, but this time felt different. Faster, less predictable. Scientists warned of waves reaching 15 to 20 feet crashing into coastal zones within the hour. As residents tried to escape to higher ground, many found themselves trapped, blocked by impassable roads, gates, and dead ends. And that's where the real controversy began. Many roads were already rendered useless, either jammed with panicked traffic or blocked by fallen trees and storm debris. But one road, in particular, became the focus of a growing firestorm: the private drive cutting through Oprah's sprawling estate. As chaos unfolded, desperate residents claimed that the gate to her property, normally closed to the public, remained locked, denying them a faster route to higher ground. Whispers turned into full-blown accusations, with people saying this shortcut could have saved lives. Soon, screenshots, shaky phone videos, and heated online debates transformed this incident into a viral storm of its own, one that would drag Oprah into one of the most intense public backlashes of her career. Before long, the narrative had taken on a life of its own. Emotional posts from frightened locals collided with outrage-fueled commentary from influencers and activists. Hashtags like #Oprah blocked us and #let us through started trending globally. But while social media fanned the flames, the actual footage from the security cameras on Oprah's property told a far more nuanced story. According to sources close to the estate, the gate wasn't closed out of malice or indifference. Was a coordinated safety measure put in place at the request of emergency management? Apparently, the road was never designated as an official evacuation route due to its terrain and lack of public accessibility. Still, once the headlines were out, it didn't matter. The internet had made up its mind. That single tweet became a rallying cry. It wasn't just about Oprah anymore, it became a symbol of the widening gap between the elite and everyday people. Comment sections were flooded with accusations of hypocrisy. Clips of Oprah handing out blankets during wildfires were now being stitched alongside the Gate video, with captions like, "She'll give you a blanket but not a road." Celebrities chimed in. News outlets picked it up. And just like that, a short clip without context, without verification, had rewritten the entire story. The court of public opinion had spoken. Oprah, once seen as a beacon of compassion, was now painted as the face of indifference in the midst of crisis. The contrast was striking. Oprah Winfrey, a woman globally praised for her philanthropy and compassion, suddenly found herself at the center of a backlash that painted her as a symbol of elite detachment. As social media erupted with memes, commentary, and outrage, the narrative took hold before any facts could catch up. Images of locked gates and panicked residents became the backdrop to accusations of selfishness, with users claiming she turned her back on those in need. Even though no official confirmation had surfaced that Oprah herself had ordered the gates closed, public opinion was already cemented. When she finally responded, citing a miscommunication with local authorities and referencing legal and safety concerns, her words only intensified the firestorm. To many, it sounded like an excuse rather than accountability, a reminder that in moments of crisis, power and privilege can often stand in stark contrast to the needs of the people. It was the perfect storm, crafted for controversy, ripe for outrage. A billionaire media titan pitted against terrified locals fighting for their lives. The story practically wrote itself. And once the internet got hold of it, the narrative took on a life of its own. As celebrities and influencers jumped into the fray, the divide deepened. A few voices called for patience and facts, but far more either condemned Oprah outright or blindly amplified the most viral accusations. Meanwhile, Oprah's silence hung heavy. No tweet, no public comment, not even a brief clarification. And in a world where perception is everything, that silence echoed louder than any denial. What few knew behind the scenes, though, was that a team was already working overtime, crafting a response not just to defend Oprah's name but to reset the entire story. When that statement finally dropped, it didn't just shift the conversation. It stunned the very people who thought they had her figured out. After nearly a full day of digital uproar, Oprah Winfrey finally emerged from the silence, but not with the dramatic live press conference some expected. No Instagram Live, no headline-grabbing interview, and definitely no performative tears on national TV. Instead, her team issued a carefully worded written statement accompanied by a raw, unfiltered video shot on her Maui estate. Gone was the polished, media-trained Oprah in full glam. In her place stood a weary figure in a plain gray sweatshirt, barefaced and clearly shaken. Her eyes, tired. Her voice, shaky. "I've seen what's being said," she began, "and I'm heartbroken." This wasn't a media mogul addressing her audience, it was a woman visibly rattled, trying to defend her character in the eye of a digital hurricane. "I would never, ever put a gate, a road, or anything above someone's life. That's just not who I am," Oprah said, her voice trembling. And just when the internet had made up its mind, the narrative took a sharp turn. According to her official statement corroborated by county records and HOA documentation, Oprah didn't close the gate. In fact, she legally couldn't. That road, she revealed, was under shared jurisdiction with a neighborhood homeowners association, and emergency protocols during the tsunami scare were dictated by local civil defense, not her. Automatic closures were triggered in several zones deemed high risk. Once Oprah was made aware of the chaos, she claimed she acted immediately, green-lighting emergency access through her land, and even offering up parts of her estate for helicopters, staging areas, and aid distribution. The accusations were loud, but the receipts louder. To reinforce her statement, Oprah released a brief but powerful video showing her alongside local first responders, unloading emergency supplies and distributing water and blankets from her personal storage. It was a direct attempt to counter the viral backlash with visible action, but what caught even more attention was her bold decision to name specific influencers who had shared the original Gate video without verifying the facts. "I've given my life 2 stories," she said, her voice firm, "but this isn't the truth. This is outrage turned into entertainment." Her message reached its emotional peak when she addressed the residents of Hawaii directly. "To my neighbors, to those who feel hurt or betrayed, I am truly sorry for any confusion. I love this land. I love you. That hasn't changed. It never will. The internet reaction was instant. Some applauded her transparency, while others remained skeptical. Supporters quickly rallied behind her, launching the trending hashtag #WeStandWithOprah, claiming the media had spun the story unfairly and that once again, social media had devolved into a breeding ground for misinformation. High-profile voices, like Ava DuVernay and Gayle King, stepped forward, publicly defending Oprah and commending her for remaining composed and compassionate amidst the storm. But not everyone was swayed. Some critics dismissed her response as calculated damage control. Others scrutinized the timeline, questioning whether the gate was opened swiftly enough or only after public pressure mounted. And then there were those who, upon realizing she wasn't to blame, quietly erased their viral accusations without so much as an apology, reinforcing the growing sentiment that this was never truly about truth. It was about the spectacle of outrage. One thing was undeniable: Oprah's response shifted the tide. What began as a public dragging quickly morphed into something far more complicated, a cautionary tale about how digital mobs can form faster than facts, how emotion can eclipse evidence, and how a single narrative, true or not, can dominate the discourse. But even with receipts, context, and county documents backing her up, Oprah wasn't in the clear. Because beyond the PR nightmare and her heartfelt video, a deeper unease had started to rise. People weren't just talking about gates and roads anymore. They were talking about land, legacy, and long-standing resentment. The tsunami may have triggered the controversy, but the roots ran deeper, long before the warnings, the flooding, or the accusations. Tension had been quietly simmering between Oprah Winfrey and native Hawaiians, tension fueled by years of real estate purchases, displacement concerns, and whispered fears about cultural erasure. Oprah's presence in Maui has become more than just a celebrity living quietly on an island. It's become a symbol of something deeper and more controversial. Over nearly 2 decades, she steadily acquired over 1,000 acres of land, turning once open pastures, former sugar plantations, and public access roads into private property sealed behind gates and hedges. To outsiders, it may have seemed like a peaceful retreat, but to many native Hawaiians, it felt like a slow and painful replay of history. This wasn't just real estate, it was displacement. Generational land once shared or passed down through families was now part of a billionaire's estate. It's not that we hate Oprah, one resident explained, but when someone starts buying up the land piece by piece, it reminds us of when our people were pushed out. It hits a nerve. In Hawaii, land is more than just earth, it's a living connection to ancestry, culture, and identity. And when that land disappears behind stone walls, the pain runs far deeper than property lines. That deep-rooted pain isn't just about one celebrity buying land, it's tied to a history of displacement that dates back to the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom in 1893. For generations, native Hawaiians have watched their ancestral lands taken and transformed into resorts, luxury estates, and gated communities, often without regard for cultural or spiritual significance. So when Oprah began quietly purchasing over 1,000 acres across Maui, sometimes through LLCs, land trusts, and intermediaries, even if legally and with good intentions, it triggered that historical trauma. What some saw as privacy and protection, others saw as secrecy and erasure. To locals, it wasn't just about real estate. It felt like history repeating itself, another powerful outsider acquiring sacred ground, and another chapter in the ongoing struggle for land, identity, and respect. Locals began to question the real motive behind Oprah's ever-expanding land purchases. What is she planning? They asked. Why so much land? And why now? Theories spread quickly. Some speculated she was constructing a doomsday compound. Others feared a quiet bid for influence over local zoning, while a few whispered about an exclusive, self-sufficient haven for the ultra-wealthy. In reality, her intentions were likely far less sinister: a blend of personal privacy, strategic investment, and a sincere appreciation for Hawaiian culture. But by the time her representatives attempted to clear the air, the damage was done. The perception had already solidified. Oprah was no longer viewed as a well-meaning outsider. She had become, to many, the face of cultural erasure. And when the tsunami struck, the smoldering resentment ignited into full-blown outrage. When the locked gate footage exploded online, it wasn't just seen as a logistical failure, it became a symbol. To many residents, it validated a deeper, long-held fear that wealthy outsiders had taken too much for too long. And in times of true need, it was the locals who were left to suffer. The incident struck a raw nerve, and the backlash quickly intensified. News outlets flocked to the story, and local activists seized the moment, demanding transparency in land acquisitions and ownership. Online petitions began circulating, calling on celebrities like Oprah to return portions of the land or, at the very least, invest meaningfully in initiatives that empowered Native Hawaiian communities. Hashtags like #OprahGiveItBack surged across TikTok and Instagram. Even longtime supporters were torn. One Maui resident summed up the conflicted mood in a viral post: "I love Oprah, but this doesn't sit right. She's inspired me all my life. But love doesn't mean ignoring the truth." The post continued. "This land has spirit. It has history. It's not just something you buy and fence off." And with that, the conversation shifted. It was no longer just about one locked gate or a viral video. It had evolved into something far more complex. A reckoning over identity, generational memory, and the meaning of stewardship versus ownership. Even Oprah, with all her influence and philanthropy, couldn't silence that kind of storm with a single statement. As tensions surrounding Oprah Winfrey's landholdings and the infamous gate mounted, they triggered a broader question that had long been simmering under the surface. Why are so many celebrities quietly buying up land in Hawaii? And more urgently, what does that mean for the people who have called these islands home for generations? Because while the world sees Hawaii as paradise, to those who live there, it's not a playground or postcard. It's a place of deep-rooted culture, family legacy, and land that speaks. Hawaii's postcard, perfect beaches and peaceful seclusion, have long drawn the world's elite, turning the islands into a haven for celebrity estates. Over time, figures like Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Owen Wilson, Woody Harrelson, and Clint Eastwood have quietly purchased vast tracts of land, but what was once admired as a luxury lifestyle is now under intense scrutiny. Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, faced significant backlash after acquiring 1,500 acres on Kauai. Locals accused him of blocking access to ancient burial sites and cherished hiking paths, sacred spaces deeply rooted in Hawaiian tradition. Though he later apologized and made charitable donations, many residents saw the gesture as too late. For them, the damage, both cultural and emotional, had already been done. The soul of the land was being sold off piece by piece, unraveling a deep cultural fabric that had long connected Hawaiians to their heritage. The Oprah controversy didn't just spark outrage on its own. It triggered a domino effect that rocked the entire celebrity real estate scene in Hawaii. Suddenly, names like Leonardo DiCaprio and Reese Witherspoon came under intense scrutiny. Questions flooded the public discourse: who owns what? How much land is too much? Should the ultra-rich be allowed to privatize paradise? In response, Hawaiian activists amplified their voices, organizing town halls, launching viral social media campaigns, and confronting lawmakers about zoning laws and public access rights. What had been a quiet undercurrent of frustration transformed into a powerful, visible movement demanding change. Hashtags like #Hawaii is not for sale, #SHLandback, and #ProtectFiana with Gina, meaning land in Hawaiian, quickly went viral, amplifying the call to protect native rights. But what does this mean for Oprah? She's no longer just a celebrity caught in a scandal. She's become the face of a much deeper, systemic issue. Her fame, wealth, and public image of compassion have collided head-on with generations of frustration and pain that had been overlooked for too long. A longtime Hawaiian cultural advisor summed it up perfectly: "We're not just fighting for land. We're fighting for memory, for dignity, for the stories our ancestors buried in the soil." Too many, every gated road symbolizes more than just a barrier to privacy. It's a locked chapter of history. Even her most sympathetic fans are now urging Oprah to do far more than just write checks. They want meaningful action and respect for the people and their heritage. Point that changes everything. Advocates and locals alike are watching closely to see if she will rise to the occasion, whether she will become part of the solution or further fuel the growing divide. The pressure is mounting for Oprah to move beyond silence and symbolism, to truly engage with the community and honor the deep connection Hawaiians have to their land. This isn't just a story about one woman's property. It's a powerful call for justice, respect, and restoration that could reshape the future of Hawaii for generations to come.